Everything Old is New Again, America's entertainment pop culture talk show.
It may well possess a rudimentary intelligence.
I'm trying to think, but nothing happens.
Felt a great disturbance in the force.
Hello, I'm Mr. Red.
Come on, Mark, like a dog for me.
Where's the goodies? Leave the gun. Take the cannoli.
I bet you wouldn't have done anything like this if Mom and Dad were here.
You filthy criminal.
Excuse me while I whip this out.
Go ahead. Make my day.
Here are your hosts, Douglas Viviani and David Cohen.
Welcome to Everything Old is New Again, and of course this is the aforementioned Douglas Viviani. I'm with the rather organic David Cohen.
Organic?
Yes, we're going to do an Everything Old is New Again show that's different. As you know, the cornerstone of Everything Old is New Again, if you've been listening for the last 2 years, which is, of course, America's entertainment pop culture talk show, is that we use short audio clips to refresh the memory of the various topics that we're discussing. Well, today the topic will be Everything Old is New Again, and where we came from and where we're going, what we're all about, and what we're thinking about the show. And further, we're going to do this with all talk, no clips. This is Everything Old is New Again, Unplugged.
Ah, is that where the organic comes from?
Yes.
Okay.
What do you think? Does it work?
Organic? No, it's too late now. Let's go.
Well, listen, as far as I'm concerned, I'm ecstatic that we are on the air and continue to be on the air, picked up by stations across the nation, including Ogdensburg, New York, a station that actually carries the Buffalo Bills football. WQTK, which is on 92.7 FM. It's the North Country's News and Talk Authority. And I further wanted to let you know that they broadcast into, believe it or not, Canada.
Wow.
So could we say does that mean you're international since you've gotten, another country on board?
I believe you can.
And we've got Spencerville, Ontario, where we
Oh, then you're definitely in Canada.
Yeah, and
right.
Brockville, Ontario. So it's right on the border there of New York and California, a little bit of California.
Canada. Yes.
A little bit, I think about 130 miles from Montreal. It's
cool.
Interesting.
We're international now.
We're international, and we're ecstatic.
Woo!
We are there every Sunday at 7 a.m.
Nice.
We can wake you up before you do your chores and have your bacon and egg sandwich or whatever it might be for the morning. What do you think?
Perfect. The perfect way to start your day.
There you go. So the real question then is, when we turn our attention to Everything Old is New Again, is the first thing, like, what is this show? What are we all about? Why do we do
this show? Why are we doing it?
I challenge you, if you've heard anything like Everything Old is New Again on the radio, to kind of respond to this call out and email us at oldnewagain@AOL.com. oldnewagain@AOL.com. Even if you're, inquisitive about why we're doing it, but if you've got some point of view that you want us to improve upon, you have an idea for a show, or you just want to communicate with us, we're definitely open to that.
Absolutely. We're looking for ideas. So, yeah, help us out. We'd love to hear from you.
And, but I challenge you to see that there's another show, or listen, really, to another show that's on the air like this one.
Even remotely like this one.
And so what we try to do, we started the show saying that it's sort of like two guys sitting in a bar arguing over the Disney princesses. Remember that?
Yeah.
That was how we started the show and presented it to different individuals to get it off the ground. And that's kind of what it is. And it's evolved a little bit, I think. We talk about, we have the arguments you love to have. Define that for me, young David Cohen.
Well, I think we're having arguments that people at home would probably be having at the same time. If we gave them the topic, they would just be off and running with it. Now, it may not be something like heavy, like politics or something in the news or even sports, but it's more about, things that we've grown up with, that we're familiar with, things in pop culture that we experienced either as kids or we're experiencing right now, or that's sort of having a deja vu effect. So I think that's what really plugs in. People can plug into that and have their own arguments based on what we're saying.
And in fact, we might leave you after we, get off the air after an hour of presentation of the topic, and we then envision you going ahead and continuing this and say, hey, wait a minute, did you hear what they said about this topic or that topic? Do you agree? You don't agree?
Yeah,
did it really?
Now, Everything Old is New Again, America's entertainment pop culture talk show with Douglas Viviani and David Cohen.
This is Terrence Winter, writer and executive producer of The Sopranos, creator and executive producer of Boardwalk Empire and the new Vinyl on HBO. And you're listening to my friends Douglas Viviani and David Cohen on Everything Old is New Again.
There we go. Welcome to Everything Old is New Again. It's a little different show we're going to do in examination of Everything Old is New Again.
Unplugged.
Which means what?
Which means no clips.
No clips. Just the two of us hanging around at the bar, getting ready.
Friendly banter.
Good-natured fun. And along those lines, we do invite and have invited guests on board.
Yes.
Known individuals as well as our old, let's call it rogues gallery of people. We've had Jay Johnson on the show, which was a lot of fun.
He of soap fame?
Yes, and he spoke to us about all things ventriloquism.
Yeah.
I think we had some fun with him, and then he was taken aback a little bit because we had so many clips and so many things that were fun that he started to loosen up like the second, maybe the third or fourth section, and started to laugh with us a little bit. We had a game show with him and stuff. So because he was very serious in the beginning, you know.
Yeah, he definitely loosened up.
Yeah, he's a good guy, a good guest. He really knows his topic. I mean, you know, let's put it this way: in the preparation of that interview, I didn't pass by him any outline or anything like that. I just said, you know, I might talk about this and that, but it's very vague. He basically said to me, "Look, talk about anything you want, ventriloquism. I have no problem with it." So he was able to, off the top of his head, really carry a conversation about the history of ventriloquism, which is what we did, and what's going on today. So he was really cool. I wish he would do more things so that we could actually have him back to talk about. Because usually when people want to come on a radio show, they want to promote something.
Sure.
You know,
and what better place to do it than Everything Old is New Again?
Exactly. Speaking of which, we had Terry Winter and Max Casella. From at that point, Vinyl was the first season of Vinyl on the show. Right. And, of course, Terry Winter won an Emmy for Sopranos. He spent an entire hour with us. He also created Boardwalk Empire.
Right.
He was the executive producer on Vinyl. He showrunner, as they call it as well, some day-to-day kind of guy.
Yes. And
then he passed off to us Max Casella, who was great in that show, and he was in Doogie Howser.
He was Vinny in Doogie Howser, right?
Yeah. And
also had a great role in the short-lived Vinyl.
Yeah, he was fun to have on the show as well. Yeah. Again, another one that was, you know, it's nothing wrong with being serious. He's serious about his craft, but we kind of want to try to loosen people up. Terry was easy to loosen up.
Well, you knew him.
I knew him from law school, and we went to law school together, so I pulled one out of the hat there. And he was a lot of fun. If you listen to our Best Of show 2 shows ago, we still devoted like a good 8 minutes of his interview straight out to hear it again, because it was such a great story.
Yeah, it was just very inspirational about what you know, how he basically gave up one career to pursue a career that he loved.
Yeah, and it's a great lesson, because he was like, listen, you know, he was a lawyer on Wall Street. You know, so money wasn't necessarily a huge issue at that point. He decided to turn that away and flew out to California with nothing, lived like a monk, so to speak, as he says, and just wrote. And he believed in himself. Something inside of him was telling him, that's what I need to do. So that was great to have. Then we had the gentleman from Quarry, who we weren't really familiar with, Michael Fuller and Graham Gordy and David Porter. There's a musical arranger who he wrote Soul Man, and he was quite known. It is quite known. He's in the Hall of Fame for Music Hall of Fame. Right.
And Quarry, a new show, relatively new at this point on Cinemax.
Right. Which is doing well, I hear.
Off to a good start.
Yep. And it was, they also, let's think about it. If you hear these gentlemen and ladies on interviews on the radio, they usually are like a 3 or 5 minute interview. It's really quick, bullet points, and serious, and let's move on to the next one. Let's face it, they're doing a lot of interviews for these shows to promote things. So when they hear from us, we say, no, we want to have them on for the entire hour. They most of the time like that because it's more publicity. But more than that, we can dive into things and their past and where did this come from and why is this show something you want to even do and so forth. And we're able to explore it a lot more than other shows can because we devote the entire hour to that.
Very true, right.
And so they really enjoyed it, and they actually tongue-in-cheek or maybe seriously said to us, hey, you know what, if you guys want, you could do the after show for Quarry.
Right.
So we're hoping Quarry actually becomes very successful enough where they want an after show, and I'll contact those characters right away.
Exactly. Yeah, definitely.
And then we have a bunch of affiliates that I try to be in touch with. I send out notes every so often and say hello, and we say hello on the air to the affiliates when they do something or they come on board, with us. And a gentleman by the name of Jim Geedy from KVGC, he's the morning man on that station in Jackson, California, by sort of, I would just say it's of Sacramento. It's west of Sacramento by the San Andreas Valley, San Andreas Fault, I should say. And I go on that show every Friday morning.
Religiously, right?
Saturday morning. They air it on Saturdays morning, a little trick of the trade. We tape it on Friday. And, yeah, we do it every Friday. And he airs every Saturday. And believe it or not, it's up to about 15 to 20-minute interview that we have a good time going back and forth and bantering. So it's a nice promotion of our show in that area. And he's told us on the air, you've heard, he's been at parties and people are saying, hey, can we go down to the station and meet these guys? And they don't even realize that we're broadcasting from New York,
Right.
And we are a topic of discussion in Jackson, California.
And Jim's been on our show.
Yep, he was on
this past year.
He was on this past year. He challenged you to a trivia contest. So we did a television theme show, game show, which we called You Said What? And we did that for 2 shows. Unfortunately, if you hear it, if you listen, if you're an aficionado of the radio, so to speak, you can hear that there's a hiss in both of those shows. We were just getting used to our new studio and using the phone system, and we did something wrong, so it was a pretty significant hiss. But we couldn't do much about it because we wanted to have that interview and have fun. So we turned the hiss down as much as we could. It's still listenable, but like one of those things where I listen to it and it kind of freaks me out. Like, oh, the sound is not so great. But you probably wouldn't know it unless I mentioned it to you.
Yeah.
But he's a lot of fun.
Now, back to America's entertainment pop culture talk show. Everything Old is New Again with Douglas Viviani and David Cohen.
I'm twisted up inside, but nonetheless I feel the need to say.
Welcome back to Everything Old is New Again. This, of course, is Douglas Viviani with the rather, what would you say, dynamic David Cohen.
Dynamic.
How do you like dynamic and organic, since we are now unplugged? Very little clips. Ooh, that's still there. Very little clips going on.
Oh, you like the song.
I do
Well,
like that
Just keep
song.
it playing throughout the whole segment.
Just go round and round. All right. I also wanted to. We're kind of putting Everything Old is New Again on the couch, the proverbial couch, and seeing where we stand and what we're doing and where we're going. Past topics. I think there've been a lot of fun topics that we've had in the past. Any come to mind to you that were fun to do or no?
I like the hamburger eating contest. That was not the contest, but figuring out what the best hamburger was. That was one of my all-time favorites.
There we go. It was great. And it was great to sit here with my brother and with our producer, Mike Amodios, the 4 of us, cutting up hamburgers. And we did about, if I remember,
11, I think. I think there were 11.
A little more. I think we did 4 a section. It may have been up as many. It may has been as many as 16, at least 12.
Wow.
But it could have been 16 different burgers that we tried. You got to hear us just eating and gobbling and trying to describe the different ones.
flavors,
and it was fun.
And some of the results were kind of surprising too.
Yes.
Now,
why did you think it was fun though? Like, what was the?
Well, because it was sort of, I like it when we try to mix mediums. So you try to do things on the radio that you think may not, play that well to a radio audience. It's something a little more visual or a little more, with other senses. So having, eating hamburgers over the radio, you'd think wouldn't lend itself to entertainment, but listening back to it, it really sounded like you were there. You didn't have to visualize it. You could hear what was going on, and I think that was really cool.
Yes, and we tried the best. Some of us better than others for different burgers had a different feel. Some of us were able to put into words what they were feeling about that particular burger, and not just like any of us, I'm saying, couldn't do it. At different points in time, each of us had something interesting to say about different burgers.
It is when you're sort of pressed to really have to describe something in words over the radio.
Right.
You put the effort in, and sometimes you find these words that really like trigger that. Yeah, that's it. That's exactly how it tasted.
Right. I mean, that was certainly, we took a chance for sure, because that could have fallen on its face, and people could have said, I don't want to hear you guys chewing, or you know, what the heck was it?
And part of it's the fun. You could hear us having fun doing it, you know, and that's sort of the other plus to doing something like that. That's completely different.
And it could save you a little time and money too if you're actually trying to figure out which burger you want to have.
Exactly.
You got some opinion there on, you know, some people do that with movies and other things. So why not take our opinion for the moment if you had to take a choice to see what goes on?
Right.
Then we took a chance with the Abbott Costello routine, which.
Yes.
Like, I don't know. I'm more of the point of view of to do things organically and have the idea presented, but then it be a natural presentation. I'm not an actor, per se, that can repeat things over and over again, if that makes sense, and be as fresh as the first time.
Right.
So,
but with Abbott and Costello, I think that sort of backfired a little bit.
Exactly.
Because we kind of went in cold reading it, and it's such a, you know, it's such a perfectly written and timed script that it really begs to be rehearsed.
Plus, also, it takes a lot of guts to think. And I'm saying we didn't think we were going to be as good as Abbott Costello, because we just thought the material carries it onto itself.
But we realized it's not just the written word.
Those guys are more talented than you could ever imagine.
Yeah.
And they did that, as we said on that show, they must have done those routines hundreds, close to thousands of times to perfect them. We were reading it off a script for the first time. And second, we did a second time and tried it. And you could hear that the second time was a smidge better than the first, I think.
Where we switch roles.
Which makes sense. Yeah, that's another part, yes. Certain people have certain characteristics, and maybe the roles were reversed, and it made more sense to us. I don't know.
So, you know, it was another example of something fun I think we did. It might not have translated that well, but it was fun to do.
And also to see, and it wasn't the entire show. That was just a portion of the show.
Right.
We talked about, you know, two man and women comedy teams, or two people comedy teams, and were they successful, and why were they successful, and why don't they exist now, and are they coming back, and so forth. So it just surrounded that topic, and that's what we're talking about, where we say, and we tried something different. And even if it doesn't work, it's interesting, I think, to spend 10 minutes of your time listening at home or in the car, wherever, if it's failing, if it's a couple of guys that you kind of got to know, you know, you can laugh at us and with us, and that's fine.
Right.
You know, like, you don't think everything we do is perfect.
The magic tricks on the air was another gamble we took, and I think it worked. You know, even when the tricks themselves didn't work, again, you know, you listen to the, you know, all three of us, I guess, Mike Amodio, our engineer, was part of it, and listening to the magic tricks and trying to figure out what worked and what didn't, and the fun we were having trying to do it, somehow translated, even though they're more of a visual medium.
Right.
The tricks just worked out over the radio, I think.
And you could, if you even...
This is Everything Old is New Again, America's entertainment pop culture talk show, with Douglas Viviani and David Cohen.
You doesn't have to call me Johnson. My name is Raymond J. Johnson Jr. Now, you can call me Ray, or you can call me Jay, or you can call me Johnny, or you can call me Sonny, or you can call me Johnny, or you can call me Ray J, or you can call me RJ, or you can call me RJJ, or you can call me RJJ Jr. But you don't have to call me Johnson.
Welcome back to Everything Old is New Again. Young David Cohen is blowing his top right now. You got to see he's red. The steam is coming out of his ears. He's inquisitive. He's shaking his head no. Why? He's inquiring.
I don't know. It's like one of your favorite jokes or routines. You doesn't have to call me Johnson. And I will never, ever understand why that was funny.
And that's why I play it right now, to get that reaction. I love it. Now that I've found that it gets under your skin, it will appear when you least expect it.
It's not that you like it. It's just that listening to the audience crack up. But what is funny about that?
In the 1970s, that was like, it's funny because you're right, because he was everywhere, right? On every show.
But it didn't make sense. What was the humor in it? I don't get it.
It was a one-joke guy, and he played it out for like 2 years, and then he disappeared forever, right? But hopefully that's not the road that we're going down.
Right.
I wanted to play that just to get you riled up, to keep you awake here.
You're successful. I am riled.
Now that's a show, or we did a show actually featuring that. We did, comics and comedians and stand-up comedy and all that, which I think we might revisit down the line. We did speak about women in comedy, and we examined that, which I thought was a great topic. We went through that in detail. A couple of shows, women in comedy and women in entertainment, and how it may be different for them now than it was in the past. That was
a good show, or 2 shows. Yep.
Yeah, so those are some fun shows. Some fun shows that come to mind are I enjoyed the Star Trek, the meaning in Star Trek with Dr. Richter,
right?
And we really did have the time to dive into. And I know it's armchair philosophy, you want to call it that, but it at least is enough to get you thinking about what we're doing and what's going on. And I think that was a fun topic done in a fun way with a smile, but maybe a serious topic too. But I enjoyed doing that one. That was a good show for me, I thought.
Yeah, and well, these days now we're in the golden age of television again, or the the renaissance of television. But there's a lot there and in the movies that you wouldn't think is the foundation for a really deep argument about life. But there really is a lot there. There's a lot there.
Absolutely. Even like we did a show on this upcoming television season, and some sleepers or shows that we think, you would like, just our 2 cents. And one of those is Westworld. And if you've been keeping up with that, it is a character. This is underlying, of course, they're robots. They're in a civilization, so to speak, that's for them, they're in a vacation land, and humans come and they shoot them and do whatever they want with these robots. But now the robots are becoming self-aware. And so some of that is, that violence and all that. But beyond that is a character study of the robots and what do they consider meaning to be alive, and what are the different characteristics that they have, and they examine these characteristics, and this one's intelligent, and this one's a strong person, and this one's has a great moral compass, this one doesn't. So it really picks apart the human condition. So it's more to it than just some guy on a horse shooting people. It's a really cool show, and that's what
was that show? Guy on a horse shooting people. Lone Ranger?
Well, but also if you think about the movie, Westworld, that's kind of what comes to mind. Renner on a horse shooting, as a robot shooting, shooting the humans. But there's much more to it. They're really doing it in a great way. I hope it gets renewed. I don't know that it will. TV is so scattered. Like, you can mention that show to 10 people right now, and it's a great show. I would suggest to you maybe 2 or 3 have seen it.
Westworld?
2 or 3 say, I've heard it. I think it's a good show. I'll give it a try. I'll watch it at the end of the year when it comes to Netflix, and I'll spend the weekend watching it.
Right.
And 2 or 3 will just say, well, I got so much other things to watch. Either I never heard of this or I don't have time.
Yeah.
Which is weird. It's a weird time.
Isn't it crazy?
You don't have time because there's other stuff to watch.
Right, exactly. There's a lot of competition now for your time and quality shows on TV.
There's a lot of good stuff. There's a lot of good stuff on TV. So,
and if you're a sports fan like I am, like Doug is, so that's another competitor, right? If there's a live sporting event, you're going to watch that because it's live.
Right.
So, yeah, your time is limited. But when you have no life, like Doug and I, you have plenty of time to catch up on everything.
And we actually then
and
dive
talk about
into an argument of what's better, the Peanuts or the Muppets. I just think just mentioning that puts a smile on your face. Like, how did these characters combine those 2 pieces of pop culture together?
But we did. There's a whole show on who's better, the Peanuts or the Muppets.
And then we did the Victorian Avengers. We said, listen, there are and were heroes before the comic book heroes that we see on the screen today. And our grandparents, so to speak, or ancestors, fathers, mothers, had heroes besides Iron Man.
Right.
And we put together and argued a team, yours versus mine, we picked out of who would be our Victorian Avengers, and then would they compete with the Avengers of today. I thought it's esoteric, but I think, again, that's an argument you're going to love to have, because you could talk about that at a party for hours if you're into it.
Definitely.
I mean,
I'm not sure what kind of parties you go to when you talk about that, but yeah, it's possible. Well, we have the same argument about putting together the greatest all-time rock and roll bands. So we had sort of like a fantasy draft there, and had some interesting combinations, I think, we put together, and that's something that's arguable for